So I was planning on doing earlier today, another bailout, talking about the bailout / stimulus package by Congress that had miraculously in the last week gone from projected numbers of 1.2 trillion. In the last couple days, it had gotten to 2 trillion, and then earlier today on Sunday, it had gotten up to 4 trillion. And then here we go, Congress, as usual, can't do anything right. Congress screws that up too. So now the stock market futures are limit down. No surprise. People are worried about how long it's going to take Congress to do something. Stock market futures, if you want to take a look, and there's some other interesting articles I'll talk about too, including this Neil Kashkari. He used to work in the Fed. I'm not sure is he still there at the Fed? He ran for politician in California. He's generally a scumbag. He did an interview with 60 Minutes, calling that small businesses need loans that can be forgiven. And then there was about, I think, $500 billion at President Trump and the Trump administration's discretion that could be given out to corporations and small businesses. That was proposed in the bill that I think only Trump and the Trump administration would have authority over. And there was no transparency, supposedly, at least according to the Democrats. Also, Lawrence Lepard, who did an interview with me a couple days ago about the gold market. He's a gold fund manager. Go and listen to the interview. If you have not already done so, it's a pretty darn good interview, if you ask me. And he put out earlier today that we the taxpayers, we're not going to get any transparency whatsoever for at least 6 months about which corporations, cough, cough, Boeing cough cough. That was not a coronavirus cough. That was a joke cough cough. Cough cough, Boeing cough cough. Because so many senators and so many congressmen and congresswomen from both political aisles, especially Republicans, but also Democrats, are on the military-industrial complex and Boeing's payroll. So I guess they're fighting over how much money Boeing's going to get and transparency for that. That's what it sounds like. Anyways, the stock market now is not liking this. So let's take a look at the futures. If you want to follow the futures right now, you can go for free. You can go to tradingview.com and take a look. So when I'm looking at the futures now, they were initially limit down. I think they were over 5% down on S&P 500 futures. NASDAQ futures were down significantly. The oil futures were also down, I think, they were down 4% at one point. The oil futures are rallying. Although I am not optimistic about the oil market, I think it's still a falling knife. There's going to be a lot of volatility in the oil market. There may occasionally be some stock rallies if Congress does actually agree to some type of stimulus package or stimulus and bailout package. It's going to be a weird combination of the two. But the goalposts are going to move. There's going to be even more rules changes. I've been warning about this for a while. And if you followed my channel for a long time, if you're a very long time listener for more than a couple weeks or a couple months, you will know that I said that we were going to get back into a crisis scenario and things were going to get like this. It was tough to say exactly when it was going to happen, but I knew at least some of the things that would happen once it happened. That it would be go back and read or reread Ben Bernanke's 2002 helicopter speech about fighting deflation. There would be tons of rules changes. At some point, the Congress may eventually get the large corporations' accounting rules changed. So if you're not familiar, in March of 2009, the large banks were allowed, here in the U.S., were allowed to get mark-to-market accounting suspended. This is something that financial professionals, and I've gotten in arguments with the CNBC Fast Money people and other well-known financial professionals that have big Twitter feeds. I've called them out in the past, that they refuse to acknowledge when they were recommending bank stocks for years now, that the accounting was phony. It was mark-to-model, no mark-to-market accounting. The banks were legally allowed to get away with that because the FASB suspended mark-to-market accounting only for banks in March of 2009. Well, if things get bad enough, and it's looking like things are going to get bad enough because the stock market looks like falling knife. There will be occasionally some rallies. There will be more volatility, probably bear market rallies or dead cat bounces. But the Fed is in this doom vortex loop because now all these large corporations that had investment grade bonds and had borrowed a ton of debt and still had investment grade credit ratings, their revenues and cash flow are down. The estimates about the economy, I'm just seeing more and more estimates about lower and lower and how bad things are going to be in the US and the European Union. Basically just how bad. The oil market, I'll save the oil market for a separate show, but things are so bad in the oil market that oil refiners are trying to discount. So oil refiners can't move the gasoline and the other products they make, and the oil refiners are just trying to move things at a discount so they're not stuck with a bunch of inventory because they have razor thin margins to begin with, even when they're profitable, and they're not profitable now. Demand for many petroleum products, oil, gasoline, jet fuel, all those things are down, down, down. So the oil market, there is no bottom in sight. People are asking me, literally, I'm getting asked all these questions every day now for people like, should I start buying oil stocks? And in my opinion, no, not yet. We're still waiting for dividend cuts. We're still waiting for more credit ratings downgrades. We're still waiting for some bankruptcies. So it's not the time yet to buy oil stocks. What I would like to see is the larger companies raise more cash, cut costs, not go and borrow more debt and go get credit ratings. Slash dividends, raise cash. At some point there will be a recovery. We are going to, when all this mess is cleared, 18 months, 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years from now, there will be triple digit oil again. When the economy resumes somewhat normal activity 2 or 3 years from now, the oil price is going to be way higher. But you don't want to be holding oil when some of these oil companies, the stocks keep going lower and lower and lower, and the earnings numbers are bad, and the credit ratings agencies are warning them about the credit ratings downgrades are the next shoe to drop. There are going to be a lot of credit ratings downgrades for companies with investment grade bonds. It is going to be bad. And this is why Danielle DiMartino Booth did an interview with Keith McCullough from Hedgeye. I'll put it at the end of this video. And Danielle DiMartino Booth last week was predicting that the Fed was talking about buying municipal bonds. She even said during the interview that they're going to probably start buying up a lot, maybe all subprime auto loans. Maybe they're going to start buying up God knows what else. Maybe student loans. So everyone was worried about Bernie Sanders promising this, about Elizabeth Warren promising this, and when times got even a little hard, and times are pretty hard now, but they could get a lot worse. And here you have the Republicans too on board with sending out checks, with bailouts, with MMT-QE. That was fast. Because remember, 6 months ago, a year ago, the Republicans in both houses of Congress were very anti-MMT. They were bashing Bernie Sanders, making fun of him on Fox News and elsewhere. And here we are, when push came to shove, when times got even a little hard, and clearly things are going to get probably worse before they get better, the Republicans immediately caved. Okay, so let me talk about this article here on The Hill. The Hill, I think this article is trying to be somewhat bipartisan. This is not Fox News that I cited this from. So Senate Democrats on Sunday blocked a coronavirus. This video is going to get demonetized anyway. May as well talk about it. Thankfully, my Patreon is growing very, very rapidly, almost to 600 Patreon account contributors. There's a lot of good content behind the paywall. I will work, hopefully. I've been really busy trying to make sure my parents have groceries, and I just found some elderberries, some elderberry supplements for them, and they got N95 masks. Over a month ago, I bought them a case of them, and they're refusing to wear them. I ask my dad every single day to put on his mask, and he refuses. It's very frustrating for me. I am trying to help them, though. Senate Democrats on Sunday, so I will get back to making more content for my Patreon, but I'm only charging the minimum fee to sign up is $5 a month. And there's a lot of content beyond the paywall. Senate Democrats on Sunday blocked a coronavirus stimulus package from moving forward as talks on several key provisions remain stalled. Senators voted 47-47 on advancing a, quote, shell bill, a placeholder that the text of the stimulus legislation would have been swapped into, falling short of the 3/5 threshold needed to advance the proposal. Hopes of a quick Okay, well, hopes of a quick, let me shut this video off before it starts talking. Hopes of a quick stimulus, they automatically run the main financial news automatically run these things in the background. I don't want to turn on. Hopes of a quick stimulus deal quickly unraveled on Sunday as the 4 congressional leaders and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin failed to break the impasse. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, also Rand Paul, tested positive for coronavirus. So he might, I don't think he was initially going to vote for the bailout and stimulus bill, but him not voting at all has benefited the Democrats in the Senate. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, and Rand Paul has some lung damage, I think, too, from his assault. So, prayers for Rand Paul. One of the hardest working guys in the Senate. He fights for our freedom and our rights. He tries to live up to the Constitution. One of the few good ones. Him and Thomas Massie. Very few good ones in either House of Congress. If you care about liberty and freedom and limited government. Senator Majority Leader Mitch McConnell also delayed the procedural vote for 3 hours as they tried to get a deal. Democratic senators argue that the GOP bill includes several, quote, non-starters and walks back areas of agreement, such as expanding unemployment insurance they thought they had reached with Republicans. They emerged from a closed-door lunch, fuming over the bill circulated by Republicans, and called for McConnell to hold off on the 3 p.m. cloture vote. Quote, "We are pleading with McConnell not to call the vote." Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois, the number 2 Senate Democrat, said after the lunch, "It's a serious mistake. We have not negotiated this to the point of an agreement yet." Senator, it sounded like a few hours ago there was an agreement, but once Rand Paul announced that he had coronavirus and some other problems, around, I would say, 6 or 7 p.m. Eastern time, the bill looked like it was going to fall through. But the articles I was looking at earlier today on Sunday for hours looked like the bill was going to go through, and they had jammed a lot of extra pork and fat and stuff into there to get it up to $4 trillion or more. Senator Doug Jones of Alabama, who is up for re-election in a deeply red state, said that the Senate needed to be as unified as possible. "We don't need split votes." Clearly the stock market, and I'll add this in here, clearly the stock market was not happy with this. They're not happy that they have to wait for the stimulus. Meanwhile, the dollar index, let me hit the refresh button. It is above 102, but I'll hit the refresh button because I put this window up a few minutes ago. Meanwhile, the dollar index is still screaming higher at 102.27. I have another chart. The trade-weighted dollar index on another part of the regular Federal Reserve website is it's gone limit up. It's vertical. The trade-weighted dollar index has gone vertical in the last week or so. Senator Ed Markey, Democrat from Massachusetts, added that the proposal put forward by Republicans was totally inadequate. That resulted in McConnell delaying the vote to 6 p.m. The vote eventually moved forward with the 5 GOP senators absent. Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky announced Sunday morning he had tested positive for the coronavirus and would self-quarantine. That led to 2 Republican colleagues he had interacted with, Utah Senators Mitt Romney and Mike Lee, announcing that they would also self-quarantine and miss the vote. So this benefited Democrats. Although, in the short term, the Republicans dropping out of the vote benefited Democrats temporarily. Although if Democrats hold this up enough, if the Democrats in the Senate hold this up enough, this will not help them at all with voters, small business owners, and others. Okay, back to the article. That's my opinion. The longer the Democrats stall on this, the more it could hurt with a lot of their voting base. Now, maybe they figure out a way to spin this, but Ms. Shedlock was disagreeing with me on that. He thinks that this will not hurt Senate Democrats. We'll see how the Democrats spin this. Republican Senators Cory Gardner of Colorado, Rick Scott of Florida had previously said they would self-quarantine as a precaution that was unrelated to Rand Paul's announcement. I think that they were close to people at either CPAC or APAC, one of the 2 conferences. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer of Democrat in New York said the bill includes, quote, problematic provisions, and that McConnell should have made the negotiations include both chambers and the White House from the beginning. Quote, unfortunately, because when you have both houses of Congress involved and the White House, that's not going to expedite the process. Everyone's going to want their select little things included in the bill, a couple million here, a couple million there. Hey, my buddy, his business, his small business, my cousin's brother's friend, his business is in trouble. Can we just sneak in an extra $5 million and that'll be in exchange for my vote? You know, that type of stuff. If you're not familiar with the American political system, that's the type of back scratching, that's the type of log rolling, that's the type of pork barrel legislation trading that goes on. These bills, the stuff that gets stuck into these bills, there will be stuff in there and bailouts for friends and family members of businesses that has absolutely nothing to do with what is really happening right now. Could be like construction contracts for a family member that has never worked in the construction business and all of a sudden he just started an LLC and other bullshit. Okay, quote, this is what Joe Biden did. If you don't believe me, that's what Joe Biden has been doing for a long time. He is one of the most corrupt scumbags in Congress. And hopefully not in the White House, but you never know. Unquote, unfortunately, the legislation has not improved enough in the past 3 hours, he said. McConnell appeared visibly angry as he spoke from the Senate floor after the bill failed, probably because he knows his stocks, if he didn't sell them, are going to keep crashing, pledging to force the vote again. Quote, the American people are watching this. He probably didn't hedge with puts. Quote, the American people are watching the spectacle. I'm told the futures market. He also didn't listen to the Wall Street from Main Street podcast that was warning him like 6 weeks to 2 months ago. Or definitely was not a Patreon account contributor, that was warning him about the oil market, airline stocks, hotels and casinos, Disney, Boeing, in the last 4 to 6 weeks. Quote, the American people are watching this spectacle. I was one of the first warning about the oil market. This is unbelievable. Quote, the American people are watching the spectacle. I'm told the futures market is already down 5%. I'm also told that's when trading stops. So the notion that we have to time to play games here with the American economy and the American people is utterly absurd, McConnell said. Let me add in here a little analysis from the article, not included in the article, that if the Dow gets below the key support levels at like 16,200, 16,000 range. The Dow gets below that, Katie bar the door, we're going to head pretty quickly back to 2008, 2009 levels. It could happen faster than anyone thinks. So we'll see what how quickly and efficiently Congress can do things. The last major support level for the Dow is at the 16,000 levels. So we'll see what happens. Okay, back to the article here. The quote, the American people expect us to act tomorrow, and I want everybody to fully understand if we aren't able to act tomorrow, it will be because of our colleagues on the other side continuing to dither when the country expects us to come together and address this problem, McConnell said. So you know, that sounds right, but both political parties are full of scumbags, and I'm sure they're trying to stick things into both political parties are trying to stick things into the bill. It's horse trading. So they're making all kinds of crazy deals in exchange for votes. Like, my brother's business needs a bailout. Oh, my cousin, my best friend, his business needs a bailout. You know, they're going to sneak all this stuff in. And we may not find out about it for a very long time. The lack of transparency that's going to be here is going to be disgusting. At least we know about the two currency swap lines, right? They had to issue press releases in the last week. You know things are bad. When the Fed is buying municipal bonds, 2 currency swap press releases in a week. There's the primary dealer credit facility. Shout out to George Gammon if he's on the live stream show. George is kicking ass and taking names, doing an absolutely fantastic job, taking the very complex stuff and explaining it in easy to understand terms. I don't have the budget he does for like the video editing and all that stuff. He's really good at that. You know, sometimes I get criticized for being too complicated. I don't have the budget to do all the stuff that he does. Hopefully in the near future that will change. It sounds, you know, now that my small business is growing, except for my Google AdWords revenues with so many videos being demonetized, but my Patreon account is at least growing rapidly. Okay, Senator John Thune, Republican of San Diego, said that they had not formally been told the Democrats would block the bill, but acknowledged that individual members had indicated their opposition, meaning that they want to trade. The deals offered for votes, not good enough. You're only offering $1 million for my vote? I want 5. It's normally not. It's normally a little bit more roundabout than that. Hopefully. Anyway, okay. Hopefully we can get back on everybody back on board with this thing today and get it out of here, he told reporters. He added that if Democrats block the bill, they better have a plan ready to go because we don't have plenty of time, meaning that the stock market could keep crashing, the oil market could keep crashing. The oil market may crash anyway because the oil market is connected to the real world. Oil and copper not looking good. Poor copper. Copper has totally... was holding the line at $2.50 a pound a month ago, and I was not confident about that. And I got in a fight with a professional trader. I used to be friends with this guy, but he was like, "You're a moron. You don't know what you're talking about. Copper's gonna rally. Stock market's gonna rally." He's like, "Copper's not gonna drop below $2.50 a pound." And then I sent him like all this research, and I laid out a fundamental argument, and he still called me names. He's probably not friends with me anymore. Oh well, probably lost a lot of money. Hopefully he hedged. If he was long copper or copper stocks or copper miners ETF or copper futures, he could have hedged. Although knowing so many people in the financial industry who are drastically overconfident, and I've interviewed and met with privately that I haven't recorded the interviews, a lot of hedge fund managers that almost never hedge, the odds are he did not hedge. He added that if Democrats block the bill, they better have a plan ready to go to... Okay, I reread that part. But the outcome appeared all but guaranteed, as even members from across the Democratic caucus indicated that they would vote against advancing the bill unless leadership could work out an 11th hour deal. Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat of West Virginia, called the bill the same old repeated story from Mitch McConnell. Quote, "I'm not going to vote yes, then no, and this and that. If they can work out something between now and 3, then that's fine," he added. Senator Chris Van Hollen, Democrat of Maryland, called the GOP bill bad news and said it was focused on, quote, bailing out the biggest corporations. That may be part of the case, but it seems the Republicans are also on board with all these MMT QE stimulus checks. So, the Democrats are saying that the Republicans are only going to bail out the corporations. It seems to me, this is someone that criticizes both parties. If you're new to my channel, I criticize both political parties all the damn time. That the Republicans are really on board with getting out MMT QE stimulus checks and helping out small business. So the Democrats are labeling them that they're only helping corporations, but the stuff I've seen lately from the Republicans seems they're bending over backwards to get enormous, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 checks out to working families, middle-class families, small business owners. Okay, the Senator Chris Van Hollen from Maryland added that blocking the bill over the procedural hurdle could force both sides back to the negotiating table. Quote, "In my view, right now, it would be giving people unrealistic hope to proceed now. We should let people know immediately that Republicans have taken a U-turn." And that's it for this article. Neil Kashkari, who ran the bailout program that helped pull the U.S. out of the Great Recession in 2008 and 9, and he is said in his 60 Minutes interview that one possible option is giving forgivable loans to small businesses that retain their workers. Avoiding mass layoffs, he said, is better than trying to pull people back into the workforce, which can take years. Quote, "Unemployment insurance is important. The unemployment insurance websites are drastically overloaded, 10x or more. People trying to sign up, crash the websites. The claims it's going to be very difficult to file claims and to get checks from unemployment. Unemployment insurance is important," Kashkari told 60 Minutes correspondent Scott Pelley, "but it would be much better and this is bad grammar, be much better and better for the taxpayers for the country to keep small businesses operating and to keep them with their employees intact. Kashkari knows what it takes to pull the country out of financial hardships. As Assistant Treasury Secretary in 2008, he ran the $700 billion Troubled Asset Relief Program known as TARP, which helped end, it didn't really end the recession, they just papered over it. He told Pelley he learned 2 lessons from the 2008 financial crisis, which do not include not being a douchebag. From the 2008 financial crisis that are relevant today. The government was too slow and too timid. If you followed Kashkari on Twitter, you know that I can joke about him being a douchebag. The government was too slow and too timid in responding, and the government's targeted help to homeowners who needed it most did not help enough people. The country would have been better off, he said, if the government had been much more generous to all homeowners, no matter how deserving they were. Quote, my advice to Congress as they're designing their programs to help workers and to help small businesses err on being generous, he said. Don't worry about being targeted. If we are generous, the American people as a whole will benefit from that. As the head of the, so he's the Minneapolis Federal Reserve Bank president. He's still there. Because this is normally a revolving door between Wall Street, the Fed. As the head of the Fed in Minneapolis, look at Ben Bernanke advising a hedge fund that blew up. The risk parity trade. Let's leverage up a bunch of corporate bonds. Let's leverage up a bunch of junk bonds. Gonna make lots of money. They won't fall. As the head of the Fed in Minneapolis, Kashkari and his team pay close attention to the business conditions in the region. As a result, they know small businesses aren't the only industries that will likely need help. Oil companies, particularly those with fracking developments in Texas, Oklahoma, and North Dakota, have issued high-yield debt or junk bonds. Now that the price of oil has fallen dramatically, that business model no longer works. Whether it's pensions or mutual fund investors that hold that paper, there could be big losses, he said, Kashkari said. That's part of the market economy, and so that process needs to run its course, except when they're probably already discussing buying up shale oil junk bond debt as a matter of national security. Other companies in his region, such as General Mills and Land O'Lakes, I think, which makes butter, may need a boost so they can continue to produce food, he predicted, and the airline and auto industries may need a bailout as travel decreases. No mention here of that these companies were all stupidly doing share buybacks and kept no cash on hand in case of an emergency. Meanwhile, the amount infected, since this video is going to get demonetized, the amount infected in the US is up substantially. Let me see if I can get a chart up here of the amount infected officially in the US. Let's see. So here's their chart on worldometers.info. Let's see if there's a chart from the last couple days. Okay. So total coronavirus cases in the US. On March 18th, only 4 days ago, official cases were only 9,259. So 4 days ago, 9,259. We are now officially at 33,546. So it is going up. It's a logarithmic graph. It is going exponential. And that is because we're testing more. The more we test, the more that the people that we're going to find out are actually infected. But it is going up. Every 2 or 3 days, it is going up a lot. The Fed wants the dollar down. They want to devalue the dollar. So what will the Fed buy? Will they be buying student loan debt? Will they be buying more municipal bonds? Will they be buying corporate bonds? Investment-grade corporate bonds that are about to fall to BBB or junk? Will they be buying junk debt? High-yield bonds or junk bonds? Will they be buying shale oil debt? Will they be buying subprime auto loans? Will they be buying leveraged loans? Will they be buying collateralized loan obligations? Will they be buying even more mortgage-backed securities than they already committed to since last Sunday night? What else can the Fed buy? Fed needs to devalue the dollar. Or at least that's what they think. I don't want them devaluing the dollar, but these are what the people in power believe. They believe this crisis that we have that's getting worse can be improved if they devalue the dollar. Okay, I will look at listener questions and comments now. Let me just check the futures market. Let's see here. Stocks are still down over 4%. On the futures are still down. Crude oil is down a lot less, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. There's rumors of like the state of Texas, the Texas Railroad Commission, acting like OPEC or joining OPEC and trying to restrict oil production from Texas. We'll see. I'll cover that on another show. I don't want to go into depth in that. I do not want to go into depth on that right now. Okay, I'm looking for super chats. A lot of super chats tonight. Oh, over 700 people are watching. Pretty cool. One of these days I'm going to get 1,000. Not that I'll add any new YouTube channel subscribers. I think I've added maybe like a couple hundred YouTube channel subscribers in the last couple months. Oh, and please smash the like button. I keep forgetting to bring that up. I focus on the content. That's what really matters to me anyway. Content, research, information, analysis, and financial education. Maybe one day I'll raise enough money to build my educational technology company with virtual classrooms. And if I ever am a hedge fund manager, I promise you that I will hedge. I do not want to be one of these hedge fund managers that's drastically overconfident with hubris that does not hedge, that makes a big one-directional bet and doesn't have any protection. It's amazing how many of these hedge fund managers that I've met lately that actually don't hedge. It's just ridiculous. I don't see any super chats here. Let me see. I thought I saw one. There's so many comments coming in the chat stuff to see. There's hundreds and hundreds. It's tough to see them all. Oh yes, please like, share, and subscribe. Diana asks, what's the price of Lockheed, BAE Systems, and Raytheon? I'll take a look at this before I go. Let's see if Yahoo Finance loads. Sometimes during a live stream show, these things do not work. Lockheed which is LMT, share, its symbol is LMT. It is at $291.22 a share with a 3.06% dividend yield. Let me see if I could find the dividend payout ratio statistics. Let's see what their payout ratio is. Profile, I think it's in profile. No, I don't want a stock chart. That is an ugly stock chart, though. Let me see if I could find the payout ratio. See what their dividend payout ratio is 41%. Doesn't seem horrible for now. They still have pretty good earnings per share. I'd have to look at their balance sheet. Let me take a quick look at their balance sheet. Or, you know what? Maybe I should just do that for Patreon account contributors. Let's see here. Their balance sheet, cash and cash equivalents of $1.514 billion. Let's look at their debt. Long-term debt of $11.404 billion. This is actually the most equity that Lockheed Martin stock on their annual report has had in years. They haven't had this much equity, shareholder equity, in years. Interesting. So it looks like they've cleaned things up. Let me look at their cash position, how that's changed. Their cash position has fluctuated for years. Yeah, the market's not saying that Lockheed is in any danger of bankruptcy like Boeing. Boeing's the real, from what I've heard from my sources here in DC, from my political contacts, people around DC that I talk to occasionally, the real mess is Boeing. That's what I've heard. Boeing is the real mess. Over the summer in August and September 2019, Boeing had slightly negative equity, which means that they had more debt than assets. And those assets may have been not marked to market, let's put it that way. Okay, well, I want to thank everyone for listening to this Wall Street for Main Street podcast. There is a lot of good content in the archives. I've interviewed over 500 experts on many different topics about investing in the economy. I interviewed gold stock fund manager Lawrence Lepard a couple days ago. The week before, I interviewed oil market expert and my former coworker. He's worked in the oil industry for 25 years, Robert Rapier. So there is a lot of good interviews there if you're new to my channel. Also, a lot of content, including technical analysis on stock charts, audio podcasts about different industries, about the oil market, gold and silver miners, royalty and streaming companies in gold and silver, and thoroughly researched fundamental articles on a bunch of different companies and industry behind my Patreon account paywall. Things are growing very, very rapidly. Thank you very much to my patrons who are chipping in, making sure that if YouTube tries to ruin me financially, I am able to pay my bills and continue making content like this. Because I was worried if I was going to get a check, my monthly check from YouTube, it has been delayed. It was delayed a couple days. So I was really worried that there was shutdowns at the company. Finally, I got a check about an hour ago. I got an email that it was wired. So I was really worried about that, but it is. One of these days that might happen. The checks just might stop from my Google AdWords revenues, where they say I'm supposed to get a certain amount and then I just don't get a check. So people are like, you can't claim your channel is censored. That's why I've added hardly any YouTube channel subscribers in the last 6 months or a year. It's very tough adding them. But thankfully, the Patreon is paying my bills. So I can make content like this, even if I don't get any money from ad revenues. So this week is going to be really interesting. What I suspect, this is a preview for this week, what I suspect is the Fed, I don't know if it's going to be every day, but the Fed's definitely behind closed doors. There's probably emergency conference calls over the phone or Zoom, maybe Zoom audio, because the Fed can afford that with their budget. They can afford Zoom, the fancier Zoom with the video conferencing. And they're going to be discussing, well, what can we buy? What toxic garbage? What bailouts? What stimulus? What tricks can we do to stop the stock market from getting below those key support levels left on the charts and getting back down to 2008, 2009 levels or worse? What do we have to do to devalue the dollar? And what can we buy to get confidence instilled so the stock market stops the decline? Because if it keeps going lower and lower, we're in this right now. I don't know how much longer this is going to last, but we're in this doom loop, this vortex doom loop. So it is a very vicious cycle, because now that share prices are falling, debt to equity ratios of these large cap publicly traded stocks are collapsing. Debt to cash flow ratios are going to be absolutely ugly for many companies, other than maybe like Costco, Target, maybe some grocery stores, the toilet paper companies that make like paper towels and toilet paper and tissues, and Clorox. Lysol's not publicly traded, I don't think. But Lysol, again, I'm going to call you out, Lysol. Lysol and Clorox suck right now. There is an unbelievable shortage of cleaning products. It is unbelievable. Thankfully, I have some that I stockpiled years ago. But I have a couple containers, 2 containers for myself of Lysol wipes, but I'm rationing right now. But it is amazing. They should be minting money. Lysol and Clorox should be minting, the cleaning company should be minting money. There would be people lined up to buy quite a few bottles each, and they can't produce any of these things. It is amazing how bad they are. The best company right now, and things could change, but right now the company that is doing the best job managing their supply chain, not having enormous shortages. There is some goods, consumer items that they run out of quickly or can't get. But by far, and I've been to a lot of stores lately buying groceries for my parents, stockpiling things for the last 10 days. By far the best company that's doing a good job out of all the stores I've been to, and I've been to a lot of different stores, grocery stores, Target, Walmart. Best company by far, Costco. They are doing, and I have to give them big props. They're doing a fantastic job of managing their supply chain. Yes, they run out of things. Yes, if you go on the weekends, there are long lines. But they're doing an amazing job, all things considered. Getting things back in stock, getting trucks. If something runs out, trying to get it back in a couple days later. Whereas I've spoken with people, managers at the grocery store and employees at the grocery store and elsewhere, and they haven't seen Lysol wipes or Clorox wipes in over a month sometimes. These things these shortages on consumer items, the cleaning products, really need more cleaning products, and these companies need to step up. They're not doing a good job. But props to the American companies out there and the French companies that are stepping up, chipping in, trying to beat the virus. We have French perfume companies. If you're not familiar, there's news stories. There's French perfume companies that are now making hand sanitizer for hospitals. So they're donating some to charity and selling it. They're not price gouging. So French companies are making, perfume companies are making hand sanitizer. We have American, local microbreweries and some distillers that are making hand sanitizer and selling at a reasonable price. We have General Motors and some of the other company, and Hanes. Hanes is going to attempt to start another, reopen another factory and make N95 or similar masks. And then we have General Motors, which is going to make with an older factory. They're going to restart it soon. I don't know how long this is going to take, and make ventilators, right? Not respirators, ventilators, right? Breathing systems for people. So this is a war. This is a fight against the virus. The companies need to chip in. I think the cruise ship companies offered to turn their cruise ships temporarily into floating hospitals. Props to the companies that are doing this. I'm very skeptical about Elon Musk and Tesla Motors offering to help. That guy's addicted to government bailouts and subsidies and stimulus packages. But he's going to figure out a new way to weasel himself into this and make even more money. Well, not make any money. Make money for himself. Try to get the stock price back up. Because Tesla doesn't make any money. Ken says, I totally missed the implications of a zero reserve ratio for banks. That means a maximum infinity money multiplier. No, it doesn't if people are not lending and spending into the economy. People are not lending and spending into the economy. What you have now is you have a lot of large corporations and small businesses either pulling cash out of the banks. So you have small business owners tapping their lines of credit. You have large corporations tapping their revolving credit facility. There's very little velocity of money, bro. Don't try to lecture me. Most likely I've forgotten more than you know. Okay, everyone. Bye for now. That was a troll. He just got a little timeout.